We know the last 18 months haven't been easy. The global pandemic has changed so much of our lives. It's affected our jobs, our health, our relationships, and so much more. To say that this has been a hard season would be a gross understatement. And we know that many of us, we just want all of this to be over with. Unfortunately, that's just not the case. But the good news is, despite all of it, God is still King. And He's working a good plan, even if we can't see it. Therefore, our response as God's people is we need to fix our eyes on Him. We need to rely on Him for strength to endure and ask Him to grow us during this difficulty, all in hopes that we'll come out stronger on the other side. We believe we're facing another challenge point in the pandemic, but another opportunity for growth. As many of you are probably aware, Friday, December 10th, New York State Governor Hochul announced that masks will once again be required to be worn in all indoor public places. And this is regardless of vaccination status, unless the location has a strict vaccination policy. Her announcement was in response to the rise of COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations statewide. This directive is effective starting this past Monday, December 13th, 2021. And her plan is to reevaluate this directive January 15th, 2022. Now, what does this mean for West Windsor Baptist Church? The question is, what is our response going to be? From the beginning of the pandemic, in March of 2020, our motto has been to honor God, honor our government, and to honor our neighbors. As pastors and deacons, all of our decisions have been an attempt to follow these principles. But let me just admit a few things. One, we know that we haven't done this perfectly. Our decisions haven't been perfectly consistent, and we know that there's a lot that we need to learn as leaders. We're sorry, and we thank you for your patience. Second, while these principles sound nice and they are helpful, they don't change the fact that everything about the pandemic is complicated. You see, all Christians would probably agree that we should honor God, we should honor our government, we should honor our neighbors, but how we understand or interpret what that means can be vastly different. So we get it, it's complicated. Yet, our goal has still been, to the best of our ability with the limited wisdom we have, to do just that. So for us, this is what we mean when we say we want to honor God, honor our government, and honor our neighbors. We think honoring God in this situation looks like praying diligently for wisdom, which is what we've been doing all along. We think it looks like working together as a team to make decisions, and none of our decisions have been in isolation or by one person. We also think that it looks like following God's word as a guide. In Romans 13, we are told, let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those who exist have been instituted by God. We think this means that we actually honor God by honoring our government, knowing that they are sovereignly put in place by Him. So when our government asks us to do something that doesn't force us to disobey God, out of respect, we believe we should do that. Because in honoring them, we are honoring God. This doesn't mean that we think every decision our government makes is pleasing to God. Far from it. And when the instructions of our government lead us into sin, we should choose not to obey them. But until that happens, we honor God by honoring the rulers He has put in place. Lastly, we honor our neighbors. Our neighbors are simply all people. The people who attend West Windsor Baptist Church, the people who might attend West Windsor Baptist Church, the people who see us attending West Windsor Baptist Church. Those are our neighbors. And this is a tricky one because it's hard to honor people who think so differently about an issue. How can you honor all sides? But we believe honoring our neighbors means two things. One, it looks like setting aside our preferences for the sake of others. Therefore, for those who dislike masks or disagree with the effectiveness of masks, we can honor our neighbors by wearing a mask, even when we don't want to. Second, we think honoring our neighbors also means speaking well of those we disagree with. Therefore, for those who are in favor of masking, we can honor our neighbors by respecting the decisions of others and treating them with dignity despite the difference of our opinions. Division and disagreement has plagued the pandemic, and it's seeping into the Church of Jesus. We need to take back the ability to agree to disagree. We need to take back the ability to live at peace with one another. We need to take back the ability to speak respectfully to and about those we don't agree with. So those are the principles driving this decision. And that's what it means to us. To honor God, honor our government, and to honor our neighbors. We understand that others think differently, and we respect them for that. Now, with all of that said, here's our plan. Very simply, we do not have or plan to have a vaccination policy. So we plan to follow this mask directive as best as we can. We will post signs on our doors requesting attenders to work with us to follow the governor's masking instructions. This will apply to all Sunday and Wednesday programming held at the church building, as well as anyone who signs up to use the facility for personal use. The leaders and volunteers of our church will lead the charge by modeling wearing masks while in the building. Our only exceptions will be while leaders are actively teaching, preaching, or singing while maintaining social distancing. While we will attempt to follow the governor's instructions, we will not serve as bouncers, referees, or enforcers. We're asking each adult to help us with this endeavor and to lead your family in such a way to accommodate the state's guidance. But ultimately, you are responsible for you. Whatever decision you come to, we will respect. And we will not ask anyone to leave our building who chooses not to wear a mask. Let me close with a pastoral encouragement. During the pandemic, churches did not follow one uniform playbook. Some churches closed for a whole year. Some churches stayed open. Some churches enforced masks and others didn't. However, all these churches had leaders who loved God and wanted to lead well. But that led to many different outcomes. The point is, the Church of Jesus Christ as a whole will not be remembered for a particular pandemic strategy. The Church of Jesus Christ will be remembered by how they loved or did not love during the pandemic. Jesus says in John 13:35, "By this all people will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." We have an amazing opportunity to represent Jesus well during a difficult time by loving well. This means bearing with one another, listening well, respecting those we disagree with, and doing all we can to maintain peace. However, we also have an opportunity to represent Jesus poorly by acting selfishly, creating division, and slandering our opponents. My encouragement to all the Christians of West Windsor Baptist Church is to heed the words of Hebrews 12. Let us lay aside every weight, every sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. Let's rise to the occasion during a difficult day with our eyes fixed on Jesus and allow everything else to pale in comparison to him. Let's be the church.